Hello, Year 5. Right, we're on to the next step of our map. So obviously my example that I'm doing at the moment is the United Arab Emirates. My original example was Ireland. So I'm just going to talk through the steps. So most of us are up to this stage. So we've got the country, we've got its land border, its sea border. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start collaging on elements that represent the culture of that country. So this was my example that I did for Ireland. So that's maybe what yours might look like eventually. But I'm going to demonstrate how I'm going to do the United Arab Emirates. So I've got my paper here. I'm going to use a pencil and I'm going to look up some source material of symbolic things that represent the United Arab Emirates. So I'm going to start off with the flag. So now you can do your flag kind of like a little bit of a wavy shape. So this is the flag of the UAE. Now my first step is literally just to draw all of these elements. And after I've drawn them, I'm going to be painting them and cutting them out to collage onto my map. Okay, so this is like a ceremonial vessel here that I'm drawing. So these things are most likely what you've got on your pic collage. So your first step when we did this to begin with was to create a pic collage of kind of cultural symbols, items, landmarks that represent your country. So if you've got that pic collage, that is what's going to help you with this step, okay? So let's see, let's do a camel for the United Arab Emirates. Okay. Now everything on this page is going to get cut out eventually. So don't worry about the placement. These are all going to get painted and eventually cut out. So here's okay, so there's my camels gradually coming along here. And this scale that I'm using, so it's kind of small, that's the kind of scale you probably want to be aiming for as well, because these are going to be quite small on your page. Right, I'm going to do some palm trees as well. So let's put a couple of palm trees here. Okay. Put some texture marks there going up my palm tree. Okay. Let's see. We could have I could have a little go at the Burj Khalifa. So it's kind of just a sequence of rectangles at slightly different, I'll make sure you can see that, at slightly different heights, and they gradually get closer together as the structure goes up. Okay, and then I'll put my little spire on top, and then it's got kind of like some lines here Okay, so that's roughly what the Burj Khalifa looks like. I might want to put in some sand dunes, so maybe I'll have, this is just representing my sand dunes here. Okay, and maybe I'll put the sun kind of setting behind the sand dunes over here. I think that's probably all I've got room for once I cut these out and collage them. So the next step is going to be painting them. Now, this is really important. You want to keep your paint quite watery. First of all, it actually looks nicer. The effect of watercolours is much nicer when you keep them kind of muted, subtle, because what we will do once they're painted is we'll let them dry and then we'll outline them. So if you're thinking, oh, it's not bold enough, once we put our outlines on, it will definitely make these pictures kind of stand out more. So we're just going to keep our colours kind of muted for now. So I'm going to start off by doing my UAE flag. So there we go. And a little bit of green. So I'm keeping this very watery. And then back down here. Okay, and then my Burj Khalifa, I'm actually going to mix in my lid for my Burj Khalifa. So I want kind of a very watery, kind of greyish blue. It's very hard to represent certain like metals and glass colour. So grey and blue are kind of a go-to shade to kind of represent something that's like made of a lot of glass. And let's put a teeny bit of black in there. Just a teeny bit. Okay. Yep, that looks good to me. So there's my Burj Khalifa. And what I'll do while it's still kind of wet is I'll get a slightly darker shade of blue. Or maybe get a bit of black mixed in there. And do these lines here. Okay, so there's my Burj Khalifa. And I am going to outline all of this eventually. Right, for my sand dunes, I think I'm going to use a range of kind of light colours in the front. And then gradually getting kind of duskier towards the back here. I'm going to do a technique where I keep my watercolours kind of dark on one side and then just blend it across using water. So look, I'm just tapping the water on there. Tapping the water on there. Tapping the water on. Okay. So there we've got some nice like highlights and lowlights. And then the sun, I'm going to do yellow, but what I will demonstrate is how to do like a white outline around it. It's going to make it look a lot more a lot brighter, shall we say. All right, so palm tree, I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm going to have it dark on one side. So I'm taking the paint straight from the palette. So it's very dark there. Then I'm going to wash my brush off and just use water to create that gradient. So the water just drags it through. Okay, and then for the leaves, I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to take a darker green, I think, for the leaves. And I'm going to just kind of tap where I want my leaf pattern to be. Again, I'm going to go over all of this with a pen when it's dry. Okay. And then let's just use the water to make a gradient. So we've got a darker area of leaf and a lighter area of leaf. Right, my camel, I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm going to kind of have like a dark area here, 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 and here. And then I'm literally going to just clean my brush off in the water. So all I've got on my brush now is just some of the water from the pot, and I'm just going to use that. So this is just the water from my brush, but what's happening is the capillary action of the water is kind of grabbing onto other molecules of water, and they're kind of holding hands, but they're doing the job of filling up my page, but also giving me 2 shades of this kind of camel, like browny mustardy colour, okay? And then something similar, I think, for this this pot here. So I'm going to have some areas where I do straight with colour, and I'm actually going to use a tissue on this. So there we go, and then I'm going to just blend the rest across, make sure my brush is watery, so we get a change in the gradient. Okay, let's see, and then my camel is going to have like a red kind of blanket on it. Okay, I'm going to, where it started bleeding into the other colours there, I'm just going to do that and that. Okay, and then I'm just going to fill up that gap just with water from my brush. I'm going to drag this down. Okay, now that's step 1. I'm going to stop the video and give this a chance to dry, and then I'm going to show you step 2 of doing your collage materials and images that are of significance to your culture, of your country. All right then, until the next video, bye-bye.